Okay, we are live. I've got our Instagram crew here. We're gonna try to do a Q&A today to see if anybody has any questions, Kabbalah related questions, partial related questions, to see if we can get a Q&A running here. My first time trying a live. I've never done a live before, but I'll be lucky if I get a couple people to join. Maybe there's any questions, Kabbalah related questions. I'm trying to start a small Q&A. My first time trying this. Probably not enough people yet, but we'll see. If anybody has any questions on Kabbalah or Torah, Jewish mysticism, spirituality, as it relates to the Torah, then looking to see if we can start a Q&A soon. Again, might not be the time yet for my channel, but just thought I would try, see if there's anybody who has any questions. You guys can send your questions in the comments. We're doing a quick Q&A, question and answer on the wisdom of Kabbalah, which is, as we know, the mystical aspect of the Torah. Kabbalah is the mystical aspect of the Torah. What does that mean? That means that you've got a simple read of the Torah, which is the one that we're all aware of. Shalom. Jeremy, how are you? Good to see you. Anybody has any questions, you can put them in the comments. If not, I'm going to give a quick explanation of what Kabbalah is, because a lot of people are confused by what it is. A lot of different people have a lot to say on this topic, but we have to understand that it is the secret aspect of the Torah. What does that mean? That means it's the hidden aspect of the Torah. There's the revealed Torah, and then there's the hidden Torah, called Torah Nigle and Torah Nistar. So Torah Nigle is the revealed dimensions of the Torah, the ones that most people are familiar with. Torah Nistar is different. That refers to the aspect of the Torah which has been hidden away from public view, meaning it was never a public effort of learning the hidden dimensions of the Torah. But the revealed aspects of the Torah are what we know. Now, why did they conceal so much of the tradition that was passed down from Moses? Because all of the Torah, whether the hidden parts or the revealed parts, they all come from Moses. So why did the sages of Judaism and Israel decide to conceal certain aspects of the tradition that is what we call the hidden Torah? Why did they choose to conceal that? And the answer is because most people don't have the capacity, they don't have the storage space within themselves to use this wisdom properly, and therefore it is too dangerous to open up this wisdom to the public. That's what they thought about at that time. And that's why they decided to conceal the secret wisdom of the Torah from public view. That was the reasoning behind it. It's too dangerous. Now, there's been an effort within the last 100 years. It really began with the Hasidic movement after Shabbatai Tzvi. If you guys know some history, then you'll know a little bit of what I'm talking about. But the point is that we're approaching the end of days. That's the real reason. I can right now give you a bunch of historical reasons. I can right now give you a bunch of logical reasons. But I'm giving you the most obvious reason, which is that we're in the end of days. End of days means that the final redemption is about to take place. We're in the final generation. And so the scholars of Kabbalah, of the hidden Torah, have found that it is specifically during this time period, and they've warned us about this since the beginning, that it is specifically today necessary to open up the wisdom for those that have the capacity, for those that recognize the need to start heading down this direction to help change the course of history as it's unfolding. This is the final battle. And since there's so much darkness in the world, there needs to be some sort of a power to counteract the darkness. So God created this evil. God created this darkness. But he created the remedy for it as well. And the remedy for all of this darkness and all of this evil and division that we are seeing in the world is the wisdom of the Torah. However, we have to find that wisdom for ourselves, because it's not going to be in the book. The book is only there to guide you, to reveal and uncover your portion in the hidden Torah, which is found within you. The hidden Torah is found within you. That's what the real Kabbalah is here to teach us about. That it's not about finding an external means of getting this wisdom. That's not what it's for. It's through deep internal work of building your vessel, preparing your capacity, and increasing your desire to connect to God, reveal the light of your soul within your body, and bring mercy onto the world. The only way you can bring mercy into the world is when you reveal your soul in your body, because the mercy comes from Hashem, and your soul is part of Hashem. So therefore, the mercy that you're looking to bring into the world stems within you. Whenever you are a merciful person, whenever you embody those traits and characters of compassion, patience, and higher than all, humility. But whenever you emulate those attributes, you are bringing the divine attributes of mercy and kindness and compassion upon the world as well. So in short, what is the cause of all of the division, all of the hatred, all of the separation that exists within our physical world? It is the selfishness that exists within the hearts and the minds of the individuals that make up this world. That's the source of the division. That's the source of the darkness. It is inside each and every individual that does not properly channel that energy. That's why it's becoming so dark in the world. The character traits of the people that make up this world is going downward. The character traits. Now, why was it good in the first place? Why? In order to go down, that means you're at a higher position before and you're going in the lower direction. So why were things so good to begin with? The goodness that exists within the world is the fruits of the revelation of the Torah on Mount Sinai. All of the goodness that exists in the world stems from the revelation of the Torah. So if there are good attributes, if there is light, if there is godliness to be perceived in this physical world, then we know it stems from the revelation of the Torah on Mount Sinai some 3,300 years ago. The root of all of the goodness and all of the light within the world is the revelation of the Torah. That means that before the revelation of the Torah, there was no light, there was no goodness, there was no life. Because that all begins from the giving of the Torah and on. As we said, God created the darkness, He created the evil, and He created the remedy for that darkness as well, which is the Torah. And before the giving of the Torah, there was no remedy. So now we understand that all of the good attributes and the good aspects that are holy and true, that still remain in the consciousness of the world today, all stems from the revelation of the Torah and the spreading of the light that took place at that time. Therefore, if we're going downward, what does this mean? What does it mean that we're going downward? It means that every day that passes, we are getting further and further away from the revelation of the Torah. And therefore, the world appears darker and darker and darker. In other words, the further away you get from the Torah, the more you distance yourself from the Torah, the less you engage with the Torah. The consequence of that is the increase of darkness in the world. One more time. The greater the distance between you and the Torah, the greater the darkness that you can expect to see in the world. Because the people make up the world. And if the people are not connecting to the source of goodness, then the world becomes disconnected from the upper worlds. We don't understand how insane this actually is. That's the power of man. We have the power to channel divine flow from the upper world to the lower world. We connect heaven and earth. We are responsible for rectifying this physical world so that way it can unite perfectly and completely with the upper world. It's up to us. The upper world is the world of divine mercy. It's the world of redemption. It's the world of light. There's no separation. There's no darkness in the upper world. The upper world is a place where beings in higher dimensions that have already ascended, they've already completed their spiritual work, they wait there for the lower dimensions to finish the final job. So that way there can be true unity between the upper world and the lower world. At this current moment in the stage of creation, there is no unity between the upper world and the lower world. And that's the final battle of the end. That's where we are today as a global society. We're in the final stage, that the last pieces are being refined and elevated before the final unification could take place. So the Messiah that we're all waiting for as a globe actually represents the fruit of the seeds that we are planting today. And for those of you who are on the YouTube, that are watching from YouTube or from Instagram, I invite you guys to ask questions in the comment section. There are many different types of questions that people may be having today as we are approaching what the Kabbalists call the end of days. We are in the end of days. What does that mean? We have to understand what that really means. Otherwise, it becomes a religious horror story. It becomes like Armageddon. That's not what, this is not Armageddon. The Christian version of Armageddon, yes, that's part of the story. But the influx of goodness and light that is being revealed right now is greater than any darkness. It's just a matter of whether you're building your vessel to receive that goodness or not. As the forces of darkness are increasing, the forces of light are also increasing. They're both happening at the same time. So we get so fixated on the negative, but we fail to realize all the goodness that exists today. That you have food on your table still. That you have shelter. That you have the opportunity to even do your tikkun, to learn your portion in the secret wisdom of the Torah, which is found within you, not outside you. There's so much to be grateful for, and yet we get so caught up in the negative. So we have to remember the context within which this darkness is taking place. Remember that the world is primarily filled with the glory of God. If you're unable to perceive it, it's because there is a blinder or a screen that is separating you from that light. That's the only explanation. If we're not able to perceive the light right now, then that means that there is a separation that exists between our perception of reality and reality. So why is my perception of reality so flawed? Because the true reality says that the glory of God fills this world right now. But yet my perception of reality is telling me the opposite. My perception of reality is telling me that God does not exist. He is telling me that goodness is not real and that the truth can never be revealed. That's the illusion of this lower world. When we say it's an illusion, that doesn't mean that we hate this world and we have to abandon this physical body and ascend to the upper world. When we say this world is an illusion, that means that the perception of darkness that exists within this lower world is not really there. It's in your perception. It's within you. The darkness that you're perceiving is within you, is not within the world. The world is created by God. It's filled with the glory of God. And if you cannot perceive it, that means that you are perceiving something else. You're not connecting to the truth at that moment. You're connecting to a different reality, which unfortunately has an opposite experience of light, rather has the experience of lack, has the experience of darkness and missing. Something is missing. That's the lower world, the world where something is always missing. So I don't know how to see your questions. It seems like maybe there is no feature of asking questions. But if you want to ask a question to the Q&A, then please go to the Instagram, Ein Sof Learning, and join the live from there and ask your question there, because I cannot see your questions from the laptop. So if you have any questions, make sure you go to the Instagram, Ein Sof Learning, and put your questions in the live stream there. We're talking about the wisdom of Kabbalah for anybody who is joining new. And we're looking to see if anybody has any questions to get us started. But without further ado, I'm going to start speaking about what Kabbalah is a little bit more. And if you have any questions, with the help of God, I'll try to answer them. So we know that the Kabbalah sages, they spoke a different language than us. We think that Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh, is the same for everybody. Everybody understands the Torah the same way. But it's not true. Everybody sees the Torah differently. Why? Because they have their own vessel. So, but it's the same Torah, right? Their portion in it might be different, but it's the same Torah. So why was the Torah written in the language of Hebrew? Why those specific letters? Why those pronunciation of the letters? And the answer is because that the secrets of the Torah are contained within the letters that make up the Torah. The Torah is a series of building blocks. It's a series of words. It's a story of life that is written using a language. That's a language that comes from God. The fact that the Torah was given in Hebrew means that God knows Hebrew, and God used Hebrew in order to create the world. The language of Hebrew comprises of 22 letters, Aleph through Taf. Those are the 22 channels on the tree of life. If anybody has ever seen that structure of the 10 dimensions, I'll put a picture of it up here for those of you who can see. This is the tree of life. There are 22 channels between these 10 dimensions, which make up our mystical reality. Reality is comprised of 10 dimensions, 10 levels of consciousness. And these 10 levels have 22 pathways to and from one another. Those are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So the Torah was written in a code, and every letter carries energy, because a letter is a vessel, while the meaning that that letter holds is the light within that vessel. So a word has meaning. Every word in Hebrew has a deep and intrinsic meaning. It's not like any other language that it changes through time. Once upon a time, the word man referred to a person with the male sexual organ. Now, it doesn't represent that anymore. Language changes, but in Hebrew, the language never changes. It's the same deep mystical tongue as it was 3,300 years ago. Now, the fact that we've modernized it and it's become a modern Hebrew doesn't discount the biblical Hebrew. So the language of the mystics is on a level that transcends this perception that we have down here. Rather, the Hebrew words are codes. Every Hebrew word is a code. And to the big mystics that know this wisdom, they are using the upper language, It's not the language of this physical world, but the language of the upper worlds in order to perceive their reality and in order to communicate to one another. They are interpreting the Torah on such a deep level of spiritual consciousness that it is beyond what we thought would have been possible, because we don't know their language. They understand us, but we cannot understand them. That's the pain of the Shekhinah, by the way. The pain of the Shekhinah is the tzaddikim who recognize the suffering of the lower worlds and wish to help, but are unable to because you cannot force the light into the lower worlds. The lower worlds have to have the desire to receive the light. And it's hard to see people suffering and not knowing what to do. There is a great pain for the righteous because they're connected to the light. But that doesn't mean they don't feel other people's pain. Not to mention that they have their own pain. But they don't suffer. That's the difference. The righteous people don't suffer. There's a difference between pain and suffering. It's true that no pain, no gain. But suffering is a choice. That comes from you. Pain could come from above. It could come from God. But suffering comes from you. So whether we're going to allow the pain in our life to turn into suffering, that's the free will. In a moment of pain, how will you react? Are you going to go deeper into the pain until you turn it into a deep suffering? Or are you going to accept it with joy? And that's the difficulty. It's difficult to just accept joy whenever the pain could be so strong. It's almost like you're justifying the pain. And the truth is that there has to be a balance, especially if you're living in a world that right now is on the brink of despair. Depression is increasing in the world. Society is on the brink of hopelessness. People are losing hope. People are losing faith. People are descending into the midst of despair. So how do we counteract this sadness which is coming to the world? We are seeing an increase in sadness. It's not just longing or yearning. It's turned in on itself and it has become a form of depression. Low self-esteem running rampant around the world. People judging themselves, judging others more than ever before. Why is this all happening? What is the purpose of all of this pain? This is the question that everybody wants to know the answer for. Who is benefiting from all of this suffering? And the answer is very deep. The answer is that in order for us to appreciate the light, and I know this might sound like a cliche, but it is the answer. In order to appreciate the light, you have to understand the darkness. You have to know that what is bad, and what is good, and that what is godly, and what is evil. So the Torah is the remedy to all of this pain, to all of this suffering. It is through the Torah, which is not just a physical book, but a deep and secret knowledge that exists within the hearts of Israel and can be learned from Israel. The Torah is not just in the books. The books are a tool to bring out the Torah from within your own soul. Hi, Yolanda. Good to see you. We're doing a Q&A. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments. We're talking about Kabbalah, current events, Torah, as it relates to Jews, as it relates to non-Jews. It's all inclusive here. All questions are encouraged. Don't be afraid to insult. Don't be afraid to complain. I'm here. We can have a good session answering some difficult questions here from the Kabbalistic point of view. So the answer becomes that the reason behind all of this suffering is that we recognize the worth of what God gave us. Adam and Eve didn't understand the worth of what God gave them. They needed to eat from the tree of knowledge. They didn't value or appreciate the gift of the Garden of Eden. And that's where they went wrong. It was a lack in gratitude. The lack in gratitude actually gave rise to them eating from the tree of knowledge and being thrown out of it. So, when will we realize that we are Adam and Eve? We are Adam and Eve living in the Garden of Eden. That is us right now. And we do not understand the goodness of what God is doing for us even today, even in the midst of all this darkness and suffering that we see. We turn blind to all the goodness and blessings that still remain. We forget that God does not owe us anything. And yet, here I am with food on my table. Here I am with the shelter. And yes, there may be very terrible things happening in the world, and you have to be sensitive to the pain of the world. But God forbid, not all things have gone wrong. There is still a faith. There is still a hope. There is still a spark of light. There is still a goodness that exists in the world. So long as there exists hope, so long as there exists faith, there is a chance to change the world, to cancel the decrees, to transform darkness. Just as long as there is a spark that you can hold on to, that spark, fight the despair with hope, fight the despair with faith. It's all in the mind. The whole battle from the beginning to the end is in the mind. That's the vessel. So this isn't about necessarily putting the blame on anybody. We're all to blame. We're all at fault in our own individual ways of contributing to this mess that we've gotten ourselves into as a global community. War. I'm talking about the conflicts that are happening all over the world. But we know that the heart of that conflict is between Israel and themselves. It's not really about Israel and Palestine. Sorry to break the news to you, for those of you who have become addicted to the conflict. This is a war that is raging within the hearts of Israel. Whether they are going to bend over pressure, whether they're going to stay down when they've been hit, or they're going to step up to the calling to raise themselves back up so that they can do their job of being a light unto the nations. Every argument for the pro-Israel side, I'm not a prophet, but I'm making a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction. Every argument that Israel makes towards the pro-Israel side will eventually fail. Besides one argument, only one argument will remain. And that's the only argument that validates our claim to the land of Israel. Only one argument remains. And that is that the Jewish people are the descendants of Isaac. They are the descendants of Jacob through the seed of Abraham. And we are the biblical, spiritual, genetic, intellectual offspring of those people. And God promised to those holy masters of truth, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our forefathers, that their descendants will see the coming of the holy temple established in this world for God to dwell among the people. For God to dwell among his world. They will be the chariots to bring this world of kindness to its fruition, to allow for the light of wisdom to dwell. That's a Kabbalistic idea. You have to first build the world of Chesed before you can bring down the light of Chokhmah. The only light that is able to receive divine wisdom is kindness. It is only through kindness. Now, we want to ask the community once again to put their questions in the comments. If not, then let's continue. There is no despair in the world at all. This might sound a little bit like I'm trying to provoke something, and I am trying to provoke something. There is no such thing as despair. And let me explain why. This is coming from the teachings of Rebbe Nachman. He was a Kabbalist, a mystic, Mekubal, who truly understood the fight that exists within. He says that there is no despair in the world at all because we have to allow for the existence of some dark space so that through being tested and challenged, we will be able to come out into redemption. If we did not go through the exile, we would not be able to enjoy or appreciate the redemption. That's the ultimate answer to why there is suffering in the world. It is through this challenge that you acquire the skill, you acquire the vessel. You're able to build yourself up into that container that is capable of receiving the light. The character traits of a person is the vessel of the person. So through embodying those attributes deeply, on a deep spiritual level, on a subconscious level, on an unconscious level, not just you have to remind yourself, but to the extent that you are able to overpower that consciousness of victimhood that arises. Let's look at a comment. Despair is not your reality. It's those that are being bombarded. Where is the kindness in Israel that you say will light the world? This is a very deep question. It's a very good question. Because we're looking right now at a war between Israel and the neighboring country, right? The neighboring country. And we cannot understand this conflict if we don't understand the biblical story of Isaac and Ishmael. If we don't understand what happened in the Torah with regards to Isaac and Ishmael, then we can never understand the Israel-Palestine conflict. The Israel-Palestine conflict is rooted in the Torah. Now let's go back and understand what happened between these two brothers. By the way, if you have a question of why it goes back to this story, is because Ishmael is the forefather of the Arab nations. and Isaac is the forefather of the Jewish people. So the consciousness of these two sides of the war was rooted in the consciousness of Isaac and Ishmael. Now we know that in the Torah, Ishmael is the firstborn, Isaac is the secondborn. Usually the firstborn gets more honor or more glory from a spiritual point of view because he is the main aspect of the father that needs to be rectified. What's the purpose you have children? It's to bring those parts of you that are still in darkness into revelation. So you have children, and through having children, you're able to build your family and continue your spiritual lineage. And the traits that you've acquired pass down to your children. So you continue the line. So Ishmael was supposed to be the one to carry the main portion of the mission. And Isaac would have gotten a smaller portion. But it turns out that in the Torah, God makes it be that the younger brother get the greater portion than the older brother. He was testing the older brother. That's what this whole story was. God wanted to test Ishmael. So he made the younger brother into the chosen seed. And now what happens? Ishmael gets very jealous. Ishmael fails the test. He doesn't experience that love for his younger brother. Rather, he seeks to kill him. Just like Abel and Cain. Abel represents the Jewish people. Cain represents the evil inclination which seeks to kill the Jewish people. Satan. Satan represents that snake that creeped its way into Cain's mind and convinced him to murder his brother. It's the same snake that exists today that is convincing, pushing these people to seek the destruction of Israel and the killing of the Jews. The people of Israel know this. The people of Ishmael think it's the other way. They are being deceived by their version of the story, which is missing a lot of context. Their version of the story is from Ishmael's point of view. The Jewish people's version of the story is from Isaac's point of view. The same conflict exists today. Now you're asking me, where's the kindness in Israel that you say will light the world? The kindness that exists within Israel that we're talking about can only be revealed when they step up to this mission. Many Jewish people around the world have dropped this mission, but it is at this moment that they are being called upon to pick it back up. Hello, Yashank Gadi. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. But we're talking right now about the Israel-Palestine conflict and how it is actually rooted in the biblical story of Isaac and Ishmael. You know, I heard from somebody in Iran, just to give you an idea, that the Purim story is a tremendous story of victory for Israel. We were about to be genocided, and then Mordechai comes and saves the day. Queen Esther really is the one to thank for all of that. And this was with the country of Persia. This is the country of Persia we're talking about, Paras. That's where the Purim story between Mordechai and Esther and Haman and all of this took place. There's people whose version of the story of this historic event is the opposite. Their version of the story is that no, the Jews came and killed 75,000 Persians. That's the Purim story. The Purim story is in our Bible. It's in the Tanakh. It's the scroll of Esther. The scroll of Esther is Jewish history. But yet there's another group of people that exists in the world whose version of this story is the complete opposite. The complete opposite. Because that people is the descendants of those people, those ancient people. And the Jewish people are the descendants of Mordechai and Esther. Yashank Gadi, thank you so much. You say, sir, I'm a big fan of your teachings. I follow all your Parsha teachings. I'm very blessed to have people to support me. Don't know why anybody enjoys these more than any other Torah lectures, but I'm flattered. I'm flattered. And if there's questions, then please put them in the comments, so we can get to some fruit from this conversation. Unless you're enjoying what we're already explaining. But the point is that the events that are happening in the world today are the branches of seeds that were planted long, long ago, thousands of years ago. We're witnessing the unfolding of what was planted thousands of years ago. It's coming to its fruition today, and that's why we're seeing an intensification of conflict at this moment. We're seeing a strengthening of, how would you say, a polarization. We're seeing a polarization. So what's the polarization really here to do? What does it mean that it's being polarized? That means right now, the good and the bad are mixed into each other. The concept of bringing heavens down to earth and the way you convey the complicated teachings in an easy way is phenomenal. Yes, this is not my teachings, but I appreciate the compliment. But this is the wisdom of the Torah as it was passed down from Moses. But it's that aspect of the tradition that was concealed for a long time. So the same Torah we have today is the same Torah we had back then. But our understanding of it has changed tremendously because the sages have decided to conceal the secret wisdom of the Torah. However, today, now that we're in the end of days, the sages of Kabbalah have decided and proclaimed that it is now time to open up the floodgates to this wisdom. This was in the last few hundred years. The sages of Kabbalah, the sages of biblical mysticism, they are, at this current moment, spreading the wisdom of the Torah unlike ever before. The Zohar, the books of the Ari, the Torah on its hidden dimensions, they are more available today than ever before because they are needed more than ever before. We never had such a need for light, for hope, for God. The world needs God more than ever before. Okay, Yashank, if you try to contact me, I will definitely check the email. I'm sorry I missed it. Is there any way to contact you? Yes. I guess I'll just check the email. But if you want, you can ask your question here. Unless it's a more personal question. So, thank you for the advice. I'm going to put subtitles on the Hebrew words more often. So, let's see what we can do. The human form is made in 10 dimensions. We're seeing it here. 10 dimensions. Your right brain is Chokhmah. Yirmiyahu, that's you. I didn't put it together. That's great. Welcome. Now I can officially say I've met you, at least virtually, at least through text. I mean, we have already been texting. So, yeah, Yirmiyahu, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. If not, let's continue. The human form is made in the image of the 10 dimensions. What does that mean? That means that the same way that the universe consists of 10 dimensions, you also have 10 dimensions. But it's something deeper. It means that those 10 dimensions are inside you, and you are inside them. Meaning, as above, so below. The macrocosm is in the microcosm. Man is a microcosm of the universe. That's really what it means. Man is a microcosm of the universe. And that means that the 10 dimensions that exist within that person can help them connect to the 10 dimensions that exist in the upper worlds. That is the channel through which we can bring the light of our soul into our body. So Yolanda asked an amazing question. She said, if this is all true, then how come there's a war in Israel? And why is there so much suffering? Why are they not being kinder to Hamas and the Palestinian people? And there's a saying in the Talmud that goes like this. If you are compassionate to the cruel, then you will end up being cruel to the compassionate. It's a very deep sentence, and most people don't understand it at the beginning. But if you really meditate and understand how deep this is, if you are so compassionate to the extent that you're going to allow evil to prevail, if you are so kind that you do not put borders and you do not have a line, then the ultimate consequence of this lack in border, this lack in gevura, restraint, is that the evil and the good will be in an eternal war. There will never be peace. There will never be peace. If we allow the evil to continue. But if we put our foot down, and this is a message that we have to understand, because in our own life, it's the same way. If we do not draw borders and boundaries in our own life, then Hamas, the spiritual Hamas, will come for you as well. I'm not talking right now about the physical Hamas. I'm talking about the spiritual war. If you do not strengthen your army against wickedness, then you are going to go with it. You're going to be taken away. You're never going to reach your completion. If you do not put those boundaries, then unfortunately, the good and the bad are going to be in an eternal war. And God forbid, the darkness will conceal the light in the end. But that's why we, as Israel, we have a lot of people who, yes, they may have fallen off of the path of true Torah. And right now they're being faced with the opportunity to find it again and come back to God. However, there has never been so much hope. There has never been so much light within Israel. And that means something deep. The light within Israel is strong, is present. It's not necessarily, in the way that it should be. I'm not saying that Israel is perfect, but there is some presence of light that exists within Israel, and we have to foster that light. What's this light? It's the hope. It's the hope that God has not forsaken his world. The hope that God has not abandoned his people. It's the hope that the Jewish people will be able to return back home. And we're not talking right now about a physical home. The land of Israel represents a consciousness that we lost. Being exiled from Israel was not physical, even though it happened physically, but it was spiritual. And the return of the Jewish people to Israel symbolizes the potential for light that is available today more than ever before. The mere fact that the people of Israel are in the land of Israel after 3,000 years of persecution and exile is a sign from the Creator. It's a sign that the end is near and Hashem is coming back. The redemption is near. The fact that the Jewish people are in the land of Israel congregating today and the anti-Semitism is increasing is a sign that the redemption is approaching. So, I appreciate that compliment. Your way of application of the spiritual teachings in the physical world will help a lot of people. I agree with you. This wisdom can help a lot of people. It can wake a lot of people up. Because if we remain that the spiritual is its own domain, and okay, Yolanda asked the question. We gotta see her question. This is complicated. I agree with you. With Satan in the world, it's going to take Christ to come and stop the slaughter. I'm not Jewish, but we have those same problems worldwide. Those who don't know about the Torah. You have a very good point. Yolanda says that we have to wait for the Messiah. Now she calls it Christ. Christ is a Greek word for Messiah. So she's saying that we have to wait for the Messiah. We don't have a chance. So this goes back to the message I made a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if you saw the message that I put in the community discussions on the YouTube page. But it goes back to the conversation of despair and losing hope. I struggle with this too, thinking that my efforts are not enough. I feel that there is an inner war within me as well. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. There is an inner war that's taking place within me between despair and hope. That's why I created this channel. That's why I started teaching. That's why I'm trying to build something to spread this message. Because there is still a part of me that has hope. Even though I have lost hope, part of me, the part of me that continues teaching, the part of me that keeps on going, even though there exists doubt, is the hope that I rely on in order for things to turn around. I believe things can turn around. But if I put my belief in someone else's hand and I say I'm unable, I'm incapable, I don't stand a chance, I am not able to really do anything. At the end of the day, from dust you are, from dust you shall return. But that's not what spirituality teaches. Spirituality teaches that when you're capable of connecting to your godly spark, you will become Christ. Again, I'm not Christian, but I'm just talking about the Messiah. You need to bring that salvation through yourself and out to the world. Not rely on someone else to bring it for you. You are being called upon. The same message that applies to the Jewish people applies to you in this regard. Strive for light. Strive to be the light in the darkness. Strive to be the light. But that means you need to build your vessel. If all of our efforts are worthless, then the sages should have known better. Why would they write books? You see? Why would they prepare us in this way? Okay. Thank you, Yolanda. She says, I love your program. I have to go and hope this is being recorded. Going back to something you said earlier, we must have faith. Yes. The faith is that aspect that keeps us connected to reality. Connected to reality. Not the other way. People think, I have faith in something that doesn't exist. I have faith in something fiction. But no, the faith is keeping you in touch with the reality. The doubt is tuning you into the world of falsehood. The other way. I have been working on my vessel for many, many years. Yes, we all have. And we've been working on this vessel for generations, for lifetimes. This is a matter of reincarnation. Yet we're here in the current stage of our life, and we're continuing to build the vessel that we neglected to build in the previous stage. Every moment that passes is another opportunity to build your vessel. Every thought is an opportunity to build your vessel. Every action, every speech is an opportunity to build your vessel. What determines the size of the vessel is the amount of desire that you insert into that service. So the more effort that you put towards continuing in this spiritual war, despite how hard it may be, it's not over whenever you lose. Sometimes you lose battles. It's not over. It's over when you give up. The moment you give up is the moment you've lost the war. But the moment that you hold on to that hope and that faith is the moment that you are still capable to prevail and go against all odds, bring the redemption, even though you previously thought that you didn't stand a chance, but it was with the help of God. That's the main thing. It was by the help of God that you were able to succeed. If only you could recognize. Okay, we've done a pretty good live stream. I think I'm going to do this more often. I really enjoy that. And hopefully next time we can get some more engagement. I think we had about 20 people join. So thank you all for coming. And I'll plan to do this again another time. I might send out a notification beforehand. And yeah, for now, everybody have a good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and have a good Thanksgiving. It's a day of gratitude. Today is the day to turn things around. Thank you guys for coming.